Savarkar and Sanyal were very much in his first time when he was in jail between 15 and 20. They were very much in touch. Of course, their interactions were limited because they were in individual cells and they were only allowed out to work on the oil mills and other things. So it's not like they're hanging around sharing a coffee and chatting. It's not doing an adda, but they did interact with each other. But what happens is that having come out of jail in 1920, after the Jallianwala Bagh episode, Sachin Sanyal tries very hard to get both Savarkar and Bhai Parmanand released. So in fact, he goes to BHU, which had just been set up, to meet Madan Mohan Malviya for help. But Madan Mohan Malviya listens him out, doesn't really provide too much support. It's written, by the way, in Bandi Jeevan. So then he attends the Nagpur conference where he stands up on stage and he makes an impassioned plea to the public that, look, you have to do something about these prisoners. And the person on stage with him is Narayan Savarkar, Savarkar's youngest brother. So he was very much in touch with the Savarkars throughout this whole episode. And then what happens is, so to answer your question, yes, he was in touch, which by the way fits with the question, answer to the next question, is that at the time of independence, essentially, although the revolutionaries had made many contributions, they actually end up with none of their senior leaders becoming a part of the post-independence India, because most of them, by the way, had died. The only two who had survived, as I mentioned, of any seniority of the movement were Sri Aurobindo, who had gone off into spiritual life, and Savarkar. And Savarkar, interestingly, is tied up in the episode relating to the assassination of Gandhi. So what is interesting is you have to remember where the revolutionaries came from. They came from basically 3 provinces. Others also contributed, but I would say 80% came from 3 provinces. Bengal, United Punjab, and Maharashtra. And some came from UP and other places also. But these 3 big provinces. Now, in all 3 cases, look at what happens at the time of independence. Punjab and Bengal are partitioned. Many of the revolutionaries, in fact, the bulk of the revolutionaries, in fact, came from the part that ended up in West or East Pakistan. So at the point of independence, the revolutionaries are not celebrating. They are actually desperately trying to save their lives. Their houses are being burnt. Their riots are happening. They are actually scampering across the border trying to find somewhere to live. So far from participating in rebuilding India, they are rebuilding literally their own lives. So this is what happens in Bengal and West Punjab. Okay. Meanwhile, in what happens to the Maharashtra? In Maharashtra, although all communities participated in the revolutionary movement, it was the Brahmins in particular who had been at the forefront. Why? Because they had been at the forefront of the Maratha Empire as well. And so the British had been always very scared of this lot. And they had been continuously trying to sow anti-Brahminism, which still exists in Maharashtra. Now what happens is that, of course, the other 2 communities have got decimated by partition. A few months later, a member of the Maharashtrian Brahmin community assassinates Gandhi, and there are massive riots in Maharashtra against the Brahmins. Thousands of them are killed. Tens of thousands of their homes are burnt. Their businesses are burnt. Something not many people know about today. You hardly hear anything written about it. And it is barely reported in the press of that time. You read about some riots happened, something happened. So in fact, the anti-Brahmin riots of 1948 are in some ways a precursor of the riots that happened against the Sikhs in 1984, against another community that had fought for Indian Revolutionary War. And of course, the Bengalis, go through repeated things like Mori Jhapi and other things. East Bengalis face all these. So all the communities that had played an important role in India's revolutionary resistance to the British, all 3 of them were basically devastated by independent India and ignored and treated really badly. And it is only in 2022, finally, that the last few remaining soldiers of the Indian National Army were finally taken on the Republic Day parade. In 2022. So this entire history of the revolutionary contribution to India's history was wiped out. Even cellular jail, by the way, was almost entirely demolished till there was a huge outcry, and the little bit you see today when you go to Port Blair, that was somehow kept.